you guys to do is we're going to do example 2. But this time you guys are going to work it through with me and tell me what to do. And then you guys are going to try a problem on your own. All right. So example number 2 just has a few more elements in it. So let's talk about how to do this one. So Kalani, what is the first thing that I need to do to find my formula mass?
You gotta write down the elements.
Absolutely. So what are my elements that I have in this one? So on your paper, you should write example 2, and this time we're going to look at K2SO4. So what are my elements?
K, S, and O.
Yeah, perfect. So these are the elements that we have going on. Okay. So then what is the next step that we need to do? Nina, what's the next thing I should do? So what's the next step in my problem, Nina?
You have to get the mass off the P table.
Yes, so we're going to go over to our P table and we're going to get the masses. So I'm going to look up potassium and it says 39.10. Okay, I'm going to look up sulfur. Sulfur is on the other side of the periodic table. That's 32.06. And then I'm going to look up oxygen. Oxygen is 16. Okay, so we have the masses of each, so Nina helped us out with that. Star, what's the next thing I need to do? Star, are you there? What's my next step?
Don't you add them or multiply?
We multiply. What are we going to multiply them by, Star? Where do I find my multipliers from?
100?
No, that's at the very end when we're doing percent. So we're doing the formula mass. So I need to look at my my formula up here. So what's my multiplier for potassium, for K?
2 times 4.
So the 4 is only touching the oxygen. If the 4 went with the K, there'd have to be parentheses around the K and all the way over here to the O. So the only thing I'm going to be multiplying it by is what?
2.
Yes. And then what am I going to be multiplying my sulfur by?
32.0.
Yeah, so I have 32.06, but what is my multiplier going to be from the formula?
4, right?
So the 4 is touching oxygen. It is not touching sulfur. So the 4 doesn't go with the sulfur. If it went with the sulfur, it would look like this one. If we had SO with parentheses and a 4 outside, then the 4 would go with both of them. But we have it written like this. So that means the 4 is only going with what it's touching. It's only going with the oxygen. So there's no number right next to sulfur. So what number does that mean? So what is my imaginary number that's not written there, Star?
1.
Yes, so there's an imaginary 1. So we're going to multiply that by 1. So what are we going to multiply the oxygen by, Star?
Then would it be 4?
Then it would be 4, yes. So the 4 only goes with the oxygen, the 1 goes with the sulfur, and the 2 goes with the potassium. These numbers down below won't go to more than one element unless there's parentheses, okay? But because there's no parentheses, each of these subscripts just belong to the letter that they're touching. Thank you for your help.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's how we learn, right? Talking it through. So I'm just going to multiply those. So 30.1 or 39.1 times 2 equals 78.20. Then I'm going to do 32.06 times 1, which is 32.06. 0.06. And then I'm going to take 16 times 4, which gives us 64. Okay, so then my next step is what Star said originally, which is to add them together. So I'm going to take each of those and add them. So I'm going to take my 78.2 plus my 32.06 plus my 64. Add those together, and I'm going to get 174.26. And that's grams of K2SO4. Okay. This equals grams of oxygen. This one is grams of sulfur. And this one is grams of K. All right, so we had figured out our total mass. We found the mass of each element. So now we need to find the percent composition. So what are we going to do to make that happen? Josh, what am I going to do next?
Next, you would add in the K into the equation, and then you get the total thing.
Well, how would I do percent K? So I want to figure out the percent that is K. So if I look at my formula over here, what number do I write on top?
The mass of the element.
Yep, what's my mass of my element?
39.10. Oh wait, no, 78.20.
Perfect. We have 78.20 is going to go on top, and that's my grams of potassium. And then what number is going to go on the bottom?
Formula mass of bulk compound. So on the bottom, it's going to go 174.28.
Thanks. Okay, and then the final step, we have to remember that we multiply by 100. Now give us our answer. So we're going to put that into the calculator. So 78.2 divided by 174.26 times 100. And that gives us 44.87%.
Miss, I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
So when you added the S and the O, did you add the K too?
So when I added this whole thing,
Yeah.
I added this plus this plus this. So these,
Okay, because it just looked like you didn't add in the K because there's no plus mark right there. Sorry.
oh yeah, no, it was plucking the whole column. Yep. Thanks for asking that question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at sulfur. Okay. Arvina, what am I going to do to figure this one out? What number is going to go on top and what number is going to go on the bottom? So Arvina, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. So what number am I going to put on top if we're trying to find sulfur?
32.06.
Yeah, 32.06. And what am I going to put on the bottom?
174.26.
Perfect. And then after I do the division, what do I need to do?
Multiply by 100.
Perfect. You got this. Okay, so we'll do that one. We'll put it into the calculator. So 32.06 divided by 174.26 times 100, and we get 18.40%. Okay, so that one is done. And then we have to do our final one, which is going to be our oxygen. So I think we have this down. So this is going to be 64 on top grams of oxygen. Our total mass, which is 174.26 grams of K2S. 4 times our 100. So then we're going to put that in the calculator. So 64 divided by 174.26 times 100, and we get 36.73% oxygen. So there is our percentages for each of the components, right? So our definition of percent composition was knowing the amount of each component. So we know that 44% of our mass comes from potassium, 18% comes from sulfur, and 36% of our mass comes from oxygen. So the last thing we're going to do is we're just going to fill in our pie chart. And so our biggest pie piece is going to belong to our biggest number. So potassium is our biggest pie piece. Our second largest pie piece is our oxygen. And then our smallest pie piece belonged to our sulfur. That would be our pie. Good. Okay, so here's where I need you guys to go back over to Nearpod. So this is our final switch for the day. And you're going to work on a percent composition problem. If you close Nearpod, no big deal. We'll put the link in here again. So there's the link back to Nearpod, just in case you accidentally closed it.